So you love podcasts, and you want to listen to more amazing content, but you have no idea what to listen to. And your friends keep telling you about great episodes, yet you can never remember what they told you. Well, here's the answer. Good Pods. It's the social app dedicated to podcasts, where your friends, podcast listeners, and favorite podcast hosts all come together to share on their feeds what they recommend and what they listen to. You can connect to others, bookmark episodes, start a conversation about the episode, connect to the hosts, and most importantly, listen to great podcasts right in the Good Pods app. Download Good Pods wherever you get your apps and start sharing with a community that loves to listen. Good Pods, it's where to connect and listen.
Get it straight, Buster. I'm not here to say please. I'm here to tell you what to do, and if self-preservation is an instinct you possess, you better do it, and do it quick. I'm here to help. If my help's not appreciated, then lots of luck, gentlemen. If I'm curt with you, it's because time is a factor. I think fast, I talk fast. I need you guys to act fast if you want to get out of this. So, pretty please, with sugar on top. Listen to Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond.
Get ready to thrive loud with Lou Diamond.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Thrive Loud with Lou Diamond, connecting you to the most inspiring and amazing people that are thriving each and every day. I'm your host, Lou Diamond. Today on Thrive Loud, we have a serial entrepreneur, speaker, trainer, Army veteran, and author of 5 books. One was a bestseller that's highlighted in parentheses, I think. He has built and sold 4 companies. As a marketing leader, he specializes in building company value through great branding. I'm going to love this conversation because Thrive Loud listeners, I bring you the Volkinator, Mike Volkin. Mike, how are you today?
The Volkinator. Doing well. Thanks for having me on.
So Volkinator, my good friend here, look, branding and making sure you get it right is a challenge that everybody has. Can you talk a little bit about some of the special sauce and the things that you do to help organizations or individuals or people get their right message out there?
Yeah, well, there's lots of different types of branding, right? It's such a buzzword. I mean, companies do branding, even individuals do branding. But really, I mean, nowadays with all the branding, quote unquote, that's going on with Hollywood celebrities and today's decision with Harvey Weinstein, he's going to prison for his quote unquote branding, unintentional branding. There's positive branding and negative branding, and you might be typecast into something that you don't want. So it's very, very important. Tip number 1, if you are interested in your company or personal brand, is very easy. Just get a Google alerts about yourself or the keyword that you're interested in keeping an eye on, because as soon as something negative, some kind of negative sentiments hits the airwaves, you want to be on top of that to mitigate that negativity as soon as possible. And I'm just shocked by the amount of freelancers and entrepreneurs that I work with. They don't even have Google alerts for their own names. So tip number 1 is to get that going ASAP.
So actually, I have a side note to that. We'll get back to that in the latter part of the interview, because I have a side note. When you have interesting names, how difficult that can be, just as a thought, like myself. But we'll get there. How did this become your superpower and your thing? What brought you to this specific specialization?
Well, I work a lot with freelancers, being a freelancer myself, and a lot of them have issues with branding. And I've worked with over 400 companies as a marketing consultant, and a lot of them, if not all of them, have been concerned with branding at some point, because branding is what really builds company and personal value. That's what is sellable, not from a personal standpoint, from a company standpoint. If you can build a brand, then you have something that is highly sought after and worth a lot of money to somebody. And I've sold 4 companies, and I'll tell you that the ones that I sold that have a brand are far more valuable than the ones that didn't.
Let's talk about that. These businesses that you sold, did they all have a specific area of expertise that you were focused on, or did they range the gamut on what they did or the products or services they did?
Range the gamut, right? One of them was a fitness product. Another one was a real estate company. I mean, they ran all over different industries. And, I just, as an entrepreneur, I'm careful to launch businesses, but I'm trying not to niche myself into one industry. If I have a good idea, I'll see through it with market research and do my due diligence and then launch it if I deemed it's fit enough to launch. I have an Evernote app that I keep with all these different business ideas I have. Even walking my dog, up and down the street, I'll come up with an idea of something that doesn't exist, and I'll do some research on it. So, the ones that do make it to market and build good value, the ones that have brand are, like I said, worth the most money.
How important is it for the people within an organization to connect with the brand? And what I mean by that is you can have a business and a product that's doing really well, but we've always said you really got to believe in the product or service. And that comes with connecting with that product. How essential is that to the success of a company and its brand?
Well, of all the companies that I've worked with, I'd say less than 10% have an actual brand guide. And those that do have a brand guide, probably another 70% of those fall short on what they should contain. Brand guides usually contain font colors, background colors for websites, stuff like that. But what a brand guide really should contain is everything from mission statements to purposes to all that stuff. So when anybody is hired by your company, employee, contractor, freelancer, short-term, long-term, they will all get access to this brand guide. So you can all be on the same page on the tone, the voice, the passion, the mission, everything that is important to the company.
What do you find as the challenge? And what I mean by this is when you're working with these companies and trying to come up with the issue that they have, what's the one that gets you oh, I love to solve this problem? What is the branding initiative? Is it that they're not on the same page? They don't have the right messaging. Maybe it's slogan based. What to you is the thing that's oh, this is the one that I want to solve?
It's clearly the answer to that question would be that a lot of people are not aligned within the company on what exactly the brand is. In fact, some of them are polar opposites. And I'm talking about C-level executives don't know their own brand amongst each other. I'd get some C-level execs. I get a VP, I get a CMO, I get a CEO, and all in a room. And I'd ask them, what's the tone voice of your company? And they'll give me completely different answers if they give me an answer at all. So really, a lot of the branding issues, over half of them, can be mitigated right away just by getting everyone in the same room and creating a brand guide, coming up with something that is feasible for everybody and understood by everybody and can be passed along to just about anybody in the company and quickly understood. Ultimately, the brand guide should have an abstract on the front page that is just a one-pager for that anyone can read and understand the highest level points of your company's brand.
Mike, would you agree with me that when you have that situation, when there's such non-congruency or non-agreement on what the direction a brand is in, that there's actually a bigger problem at hand?
I would absolutely agree with you on that.
So I guess in the role that you play, how can you help address that 800-pound gorilla in the room? How do you help organizations make that adjustment and figure out how they need to work on solving?
Yeah, well, some of it is company culture. And, the bigger a company is, the bigger I see that as a problem. That company culture either doesn't exist or is so disjointed that nobody really knows what it is. It's and then, from a smaller company standpoint, it's just a matter of thinking through the process of what a brand is. Many people don't even go through that exercise. And even solopreneurs, people who work from home or maybe even have a 1 or 2 person office, really need to understand from a brand perspective what it is that you do, why you wake up every day and do what you do. How does it even align with your life's purpose? Are you just going to work just to do the 8 to 5 and come home and live for the weekends? That's not the ideal way that people want to live nowadays. Right. If you own a company, even if it's just representing yourself, you want to make sure all of that is aligned, because that's how you find your true passion, and that all exudes through your brand. Anything that you've seen of late that you said, wow, they've nailed this? And it doesn't have to be something that you've worked on. It could be something that's been out there that said, oh, they've done such a great job with all of the best practices that you recommend to clients and companies that you work with. Yeah. I'll just specifically call out a company I'm working with now that just has built their entire company on their fantastic brand. It's a company called Canine Carts, and they make handicapped accessories for pets, for disabled pets. They make wheelchairs and for dogs, and even a chicken. They made a wheelchair for a chicken recently. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So they have such a great brand, not only the guide, but it's been well thought out, and they live it every day. They have quarterly meetings, at least every quarter, that are formal, that all the employees and contractors get together for half a day and they review certain aspects. They update the brand guide. These guys are just on top of it because they know that their customers are being acquired through the great brand that they have.
By the way, I'm recording this right now, and my four-legged wonderful dog who's passed out asleep on the right over here. I just imagine it's so true. You're dealing with a customer that has a connection, like, they care about their animals and they want to see them with the best level of care. So I would imagine that the passion that everybody has in that place is at an all-time level, loving animals and testing out these products to make sure they deliver to help. That's great. I love that.
Yeah, it's along the customer journey too. A brand just doesn't live, in a one moment of time along the customer journey. It's actually varies throughout the entire, like when a person first finds out about your company, when a person inquires about your company, and then when a person finally purchases and then is nurtured throughout your company. That is a customer journey. And each one of those, you have to bring out certain parts of your brand during that right time.
So Mike, here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
I am a big believer that the sharpest knife can't shave its own handle.
Mm-hmm.
So what does Mike Volkin, the Volkinator, do, or who does he seek out to help get him on brand, or your brand on brand, or your company's brand on brand? What do you do to make sure that you're on track with all the things that you look to do?
That's a great question. And I'm not afraid to say this. I actually have a therapist that I see just specifically, not because maybe I have some kind of deep rooted mental issues or anything, which I may or may not. I don't know. But, from a business
we all do.
This therapist is not so much a business person, but she helps me talk through the business aspects, and just that very 1 hour a week, that very focused conversation that she asks me the right questions that I'm able to then bring out, answers that I wouldn't normally talk or think about on my own. That is what I use her for. And she does a great job for it. She knows what question to ask. So number one, from a personal standpoint, my therapist, because it helps me so much being an entrepreneur. And number two, the startup that I run, Freelancer Masterclass, shameless plug, but Freelancer Masterclass has a lot of freelancer students, and I constantly am surveying them in groups, or when I talk to them individuals through our customer service department or whatever. I'm constantly asking them what materials they want, what pain points they have, what do they want to see coming up, what classes do they want to be a part of. That all helps me understand the kind of personality that I need to exude from a company standpoint to best represent them, to best keep them as customers.
That answered the usual question here on Thrive Loud as to what practice do you seek, or what individual do you seek out to get yourself back on the thriving track. For those Thrive Loud listeners keeping score at home. Okay, let's do the admin part of the show here, Mike. Let's do that. Let's do all the shameless plugs, all the places people can find you, websites, programs, any special offers, so that people can understand where they can find Mike Volkin, the Volkinator. And we will put it all in the show notes. However, the engagement always is much better received when they hear it from you.
Yeah, so it's pretty easy. There's two places to find me online. It's just my personal website, which is mikevolkin.com, VOLKIN. And that's if you want to hire me for just marketing consulting. I do what's called fractional CMO work. So companies will hire me to lead a marketing department. If they can't afford a full-time CMO, I'll work with them part-time on a remote basis. And then my startup, which I just mentioned, another shameless plug, freelancermasterclass.com. It's if you're a freelancer, consultant, solopreneur, you want to get some classes, the Freelancer Masterclass is a 9-step course to turn you into a master freelancer. And if you go to freelancermasterclass.com/free, I've put together 4 of our top money-making webinars, all for free. You'll get 1 webinar a day for 4 days. It'll teach you how to make money online.
This is spectacular. Now we're going to, not that we haven't had fun, Mike, but we're going to continue to go down Fun Street here.
Great.
I love asking questions about our guests to understand a little bit more about them, because I'm actually interested in this answer, because you gave an answer to this. Can you share with the listeners your all-time favorite movie?
Braveheart.
And why does that movie connect so much with you?
Because it is about a commoner. Listen, I don't want to ruin the end of the movie, but
hold on one second. It came out in 1990 something. They've all seen it. Anyway,
it's 1995. It's about a commoner who was so passionate about something that happened to him, and lived his life through love, and then turned it into a passion for an entire country and shaped the history of a nation. And it's the most inspiring movie that I can think of.
It's still the best rally cry scene in an. I mean, just watching him come out in that blue and white Painted face is just spectacular. Yeah.
Well, if you want, I can say the whole speech by heart. But
you know what? We played. So just a little trivia here. We played on the 200th episode of Thrive Loud the top movies of the guests, because we used to make this the last question on the show, and we started tallying them up, and we realized that Braveheart cracked the top 10 because so many people said it, and we ended up playing that audio clip. Maybe we'll inject that into this part of the show here.
That'd be cool.
That's a subtle hint to my producers here to get onto that.
At the end, when we're wrapping down, could you just play the quick freedom?
Oh, I think that's how we'll close the show. Yes, cool. I think that could be worked on. Along those lines, do you have a music song, jam, thing that you like to listen to get yourself, jacked up when you want to continue to pick?
Yeah, some of the younger kids here might be making fun of me about this, but I'm a Phil Collins groupie, so I love In the Air Tonight. I've seen Phil Collins. I traveled all over the world. I'm looking right now at my sofa. I had a Christmas present made to me by my wife. It was a custom Phil Collins pillow. It has his big face on a pillow here. It looks ridiculous, but so I love Phil Collins, In the Air Tonight, and then anything by Imagine Dragons is fantastic and inspiring. I like to work out to that.
So it's funny you mentioned Phil Collins. This goes way back, like early 90s. My cousin Lisa, shout out to her, she got tickets to Phil Collins, and it was one of those instances where he canceled because he had lost his voice. And the tour took him around the country, and then he came back maybe several months later, and they created a special date for those particular people who obviously we got rescheduled, which I had not seen before. And that was a big venue. And that might have been the best show I had seen in a long time, because he opened up knowing full well that this was a makeup show, because, everyone was excited to see him. And it was pretty awesome when he played In the Air Tonight and watch him, drum and sing.
Oh. His concerts are epic. I can't stand going to, I see a fair amount of concerts, and they sound nothing like they do on the radio. It's like, boy, there's a lot of touch-up work when the song hits the radio. But Phil Collins sounds exactly the same. He puts on a great show. Just lots of people involved, lots of effects. It's just amazing. I've seen him probably 7 or 8 times in concert. So in the last one, he was in a chair because he had a broken knee or something. So.
I'm still a big Bruce Springsteen fan, tops, but it was a really good show. Okay, so now I mentioned in the earlier part of the show when you talked about doing the Google search and making sure that you have the Google alert when people are searching for your name. Needless to say, there are some challenges when you are the name of a famous person as well. Lou Diamond, Lou Diamond Phillips. There's some interesting challenges which Google hasn't even quite figured out how to handle. My question to you is this: from a branding perspective, when you hear names of companies or brands of people, or even the names of people, do you find, from having seen the breadth of not only just how people can market and message and be consistent and all the different pieces that you have that expertise on, do you find that there are certain names that resonate more than others because maybe there's almost a familiarity or likability to the name itself? Note, by the way, there's something fun about the Volkinator in Michael Volkin. We will never forget it. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as we wrap up our episode here.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a problem about people with common names, and they can't do Google alerts because somebody else's names always comes up. That's the reason why I'm branded the Volkinator. I mean, it's silly. It's, what am I, the Terminator? I like to say I'm a futuristic marketing machine sent back through time for one lucky company, right? But it's stupid, but it's dumb as hell. But
that sounded more Shermanator more than real than real Terminator. But that's okay.
Nothing wrong with copying brands.
There you go.
Yeah. So honestly, I mean, the answer to your question is, if you can find something that is memorable to your audience or to a prospective audience, and that is what you should consider rather than just your name. There's nothing wrong with your name, but if you find it's going to be mixed up with a lot of other similar names out there, then you should consider something like the Volkinator. Even though my name is Volkin, is pretty unique as it is, I just felt that from a branding perspective, Volkinator was just that much more memorable, So
I'll let the listeners know that I got a chance to view him on our video chat before we started recording this episode, and his ears are not pointy.
Not now. I got the surgery. No,
exactly. No, but it catches, it works, and I think it's great. And any last shout out recommendations to our listeners, things that they should be thinking about if they're, you want to give one last takeaway for people to take home from this conversation?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're interested in branding, there's a whole slew of books out there that you can, branding books that are well reviewed on Amazon. We didn't get a chance to so much today to talk about, maybe on another podcast, we can talk about neuroplasticity and how to hack your brain for ultimate productivity and focus. That's kind of my passion right now. I want to be the most productive and efficient entrepreneur that I can and really turn my normal workday into 3 workdays into 1. But I do that through Sperry's Brain Hacks, which you can learn through books. I really like udemy.com to learn various things that I'm interested in. But in terms of like getting to your peak performance, you can read books. There's one called Peak Performance, actually, that's excellent, by Brad Stulgart. There's The Power of Neuroplasticity by Shad Helmstetter. All these books will make you fantastically productive, focused, and efficient at work. And you can get so much more done during that time. But if you want to talk more about branding, feel free to reach out to me on my website.
Mike Volkin, great pleasure to have you on the show today. Thanks so much for sharing your wisdom and giving some very good tips along the way. We liked it. We like productive episodes here in Thrive Loud where we actually learn and have something to do.
Thanks so much. It's been a lot of fun.
You got it, man. And to all our Thrive Loud listeners out there, thank you for joining us. Until next time, keep thriving onward and upward. And remember, be brief, be bright, be gone.
Sons of Scotland, I am William Wallace, and I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny and dying in your beds many years from now. Would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
You've been listening to Thrive Loud with your host, Lou Diamond. Make sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts and check us out on the web at thriveloud.com or follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook at Thrive Loud.